Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Just catching a few words from my wife. We're live on Pulse Chain. Somebody can let me know you can hear me. I got to ask. I know you guys can hear me. I'm going to check my mic settings either way. So what we're going to talk about, if you landed on this video, we're going to be talking about the index tokens of Pulse Chain, pTGC, and UFO, otherwise known as the Grays currencies. I don't have any logos handy. And we're going to have a Spaces. We're going live on Spaces with the founder and other community members. We do this every single Saturday. If you want to jump in and talk on X, there should be a link in the description of this video, and I probably didn't put it there. I should do that. We'll go over to my X, and then you'll see the Spaces going on. It'll start in just a minute. And then let's see. But if you want to just comment, you can do that right here on YouTube. So, and I will pop a video in the Jumbotron on X here in just a couple of minutes once we're live. And if you're brand new, thank you, Walter. Then you can see a little bit about what we're talking about today. But the index tokens, what's sweet about the index tokens that have been obvious, well, by the way, that have been successful, operating flawlessly for 2+ years, is that by holding these index tokens, in particular, let's just mention pTGC. Don't underestimate UFO, as I always say. It's the ultimate financial opportunity, but pTGC is kind of like the doorway to both of these tokens. By holding one, you get exposure to everything it's bonded with, everything pTGC is bonded with, which is strongly bonded with the best tickers on Pulse Chain. Your Hex, Pulse, PulseX, Inc., and others. ProveX. It hasn't even launched yet. We're probably going to have a lot of volume when that thing launches. So you effectively own a piece of all of those assets just by holding pTGC. And by the way, pTGC has been outperforming all of those assets. We're live. We're live. I'm going to join. Not to be unkind. It's just a fact. Yeah. Just that's how it is. That's how crypto goes. Request sent. I'm going to drop this in the Jumbotron right away. Excuse me. Zen's probably busy letting the world know we're on stream. I like what C7 said here. Our whole community seems to be growing, yet Pulse Chain not doing. Oh, PulseX again. So bullish. I'm very excited. And referring to the panel yesterday, yeah, there were a few people that were a little bearish, like 6 out of the 9. Ethereum down today. Pulse is up. Even before ProveX. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Pulse Chain holders will be just fine. We just need to hodl and wait, right? It's all good. Our time will come. I'm with Richard. I ain't concerned about alt season. I'm more concerned about our season. We'll have it. We'll have it. I'm concerned. I'm not concerned. I'm convinced. I share the frustration. Yeah. Thank you, C7, for that vote of confidence. Yeah. All right. Request. Oh, I didn't request. There we go. Good morning. Let me make sure my volume's up.
How you doing?
Good. I hadn't noticed that I didn't request to speak, so sorry for being a little late.
Oh, you're all good. Giving people the time to come in.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that video from my pinned post in the Jumbotron right now, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're landing on this Spaces and you're curious about pTGC and want to watch just a 4-minute summary, you can do that by clicking on that video that's in the Jumbotron. And I'll try to make sure it's in there. There we go. All right. We're good to go on that front. We're live on YouTube. There were comments in the chat on YouTube before I even went live, which is very unusual. So I think we've garnered some attention in the last few weeks over to pTGC. Probably something to do with performance. Oh, but I forget to ask, Zen, how are you doing?
Good. I woke up this morning with my phone completely dead. I then realized
Oh.
my daughter unplugged the charger from the wall throughout the day.
Okay.
You know, she's at that age where she's like crawling and walking around and just pulling everything and moving this over here. So I woke up, I was like, darn it. Like, so I'm sitting next to the wall now today.
Oh, great. Been there, done that. Just wait till your kids discover the tools in your garage. That's always fun. I ended up putting a lock on my tools because I'd find them in the backyard and scattered all over the place. I'd go to do something. I'm like, hey, where's such and such wrench? I know it was right here. Those little goomers, they go off and start building stuff with your tools, you know, and then they don't put them back. That's always fun.
But then I have 15 employees. I don't have tools anymore. Every time I get tools, they get taken very quickly.
Yeah.
I've been going through this for a long time.
Oh. Yeah, that would be a thing. Oh boy.
No personal tools.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Oh man. I wanted to mention some things almost right off the bat. So Zen and I were on a stream yesterday on Cultivate Crypto. I should put his I'll put the stream, I'll put a link to the stream in the comment section on YouTube. And guys, go watch that video, interact with it, you know, like it, make a comment, watch it all the way through if you can, subscribe to his channel. He is a friend of pTGC. And we had a great time on that panel. And what I realized then is that, like, if we want to be on more streams like that, you know, we as a community should like support these content creators by, you know, interacting with their videos. And the biggest thing you can do for the algorithm, from what I understand, is probably watch the video all the way through, but then making comments is probably the second biggest. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but you know, let's help these content creators that want to have us on stream by tipping them, if we could put it that way, and making some educational comment about pTGC or in the comment section, or just saying, hey, thank you for the content. So I'll drop that in the comments on YouTube, and then everybody on X, if you'll just go to the Gray 369, I think it was on that X account, the Gray 369. I think you posted it there yesterday, and you guys can find the link there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, go in the comments, you know, go in the comments and say a nice message and throw a little Gray's head emoji in there so they know it's coming from our community. I think that's a good way to show how large and strong this community is, and that we're worth supporting because we come with a lot of great community members as well.
We do. And especially if you have a gold circle, dude, if you have guys and ladies, if you have a gold circle, all you got to do is, like Zen said, put a thumbs up or something. And then when they're scrolling through their comments, they see all these gold circles. And if they don't know what the gold circle represents, they will eventually find out. And you guys can get your own very attractive gold circle that you put your profile picture in, and it says pTGC and UFO, I think, at the top, and then the Gray's currencies, I think, at the bottom. And then just go to secretobank.com/Grays, and you get your gold circle, and you can join the Gold Circle Space Force. And it will multiply the effect of everything you do for the Gray's currencies on socials, in my opinion. secretobank.com/Grays. There's a link to that video. It was a fun panel. We got some really good exposure yesterday, guys. I'm just going to tell you, like, Zen and I was busting at the seams, man. After about an hour, Zen, on that stream, I was about to come unglued. I was like, because I was expecting it to go for 2 hours. I'm like, we have so much we could talk about. If if I don't turn this conversation to pTGC like ASAP, I don't want to miss this opportunity. Thankfully, it did turn into, we did have a conversation about pTGC. Briefly, I think it was a little too brief, but that's okay. Everybody there and everybody watched and listened. 2,000 people have watched this video. Watch, I'll show it on my, I'll share the screen. Look, 2,000 people have watched that video from yesterday. He has 35,000 subs.
Yeah, there definitely was a big panel, and everyone on the panel had something they wanted to say. So it was hard to get points across and even get into a in-depth conversation, not only about pTGC, but even the topic of the video. The topic of the video is Pulse Chain dead, pretty much, and they wanted to hear everyone's opinion on it. Like I felt like I never even got a chance to talk about that main topic.
Right.
Like when I got a chance to speak, I was kind of talking about the topic of being a builder on the chain and what opportunities that opens up. And is it attractive for other builders to come in? I think most other builders have a different way of looking at things than me, to where I do understand why they are choosing other chains at the moment. But I do think when we find that floor, which I think we're pretty close to it on Pulse Chain. Like we've hit 508, I think already. I think as far as the discount goes, you can't ask for much more than a 12x from sacrifice price, in my opinion. It could go lower, but like that's crazy discounted ranges. And for a builder and for anyone in sub communities on the chain, when you're in these zones, we're pretty much in this zone right now. The upside potential that the blockchain can give you once it's go time, you can't recreate in other places. You can't recreate that on ETH. You can't recreate that on Solana. You can't recreate that on BNB because they've already done hundreds of exits. And we know those exits that the blockchains do for us are a multiplier to whatever we can do on our own. So then that kind of puts us in the situation where it's like, okay, we're flat right here. We have plenty of work we can do on our own. I think we've showcased that this last couple weeks. We did like 100% move in 1 week. Like that's pure community effort. That's pure just strong community onboarding. But just with Pulse Chain, going back to the sale price 5 years ago, the price people were paying for it. People even paid more for it when prices were higher. You know, that's a 12x multiplier. Do you think even from the level that we are today on ETH in the next year, couple years, 3 years, you are getting a 12x on ETH? I personally think it's possible, but I don't see it. And I think a 12x on Pulse Chain is relatively very, very modest. Like it only takes a few $1 million to even get there in net positive value. And that was the point I was trying to get at. Like I get that we've been on a sinking ship for 3 years, but we're at some of the cheapest prices in the existence of the chain. Distribution's never been better. There's a tweet recently going around that 90% of the top 100 sacrificers have already sold their tokens.
Wow. Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense that they would have sold by now. It's just part of that token distribution, you know.
It's distribution. You know, I think some people get worried about price being so low and those tokens getting into new people's hands at those prices. But we have to remember, like, the tokens were in other people's hands. There's not really new tokens, especially in PulseX and Pulse. 1 second, guys. Sorry. I'm going to grab my wife real quick. I thought the kids were going to be a little bit less crazy. Here, give me a second. I'm gonna wake her up.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Eddie asks, why doesn't Zen show his face? Because he is concerned about his just security. He's very secure. He wants to remain anonymous. He would love to, you know, and we'd all love to see his face, but he just prefers to not do that. And I'll tell you why. because he has a hunch where this thing is going. So that's why I've seen his face one time, like 2 years ago. I literally had to ask him, and some other people have visited and met with him personally, but that's why, from what I understand. Super Snake says, one thing I realized from yesterday's panel discussion, and guys on X, jump up and talk if you want, just interrupt me. One thing I realized from yesterday's panel discussion is the polarity of most folks in crypto. Seems everyone is either mega bullish or very skeptical of RH and his master plan. You nailed it, dude. Yeah, there's polarity. The polarity is strong. Thank you, Pulse Party, for reposting this stream. You always do, and I appreciate it. Let's see. Crypto 7, I appreciate your comments up there, and I'm with you on that. I'm hoping, I'll just say it out loud, I'm hoping that the majority of crypto is going to be in for a surprise. I hope. We'll see. We'll find out in 12 months or less, right? Good to see you, Crypto Spike. Is any of you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Did you find another place to plug in?
No, I haven't found another place yet. I woke her up, but my wife's still rolling out of bed.
Sure.
Takes a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as showing my face, I think there's a couple main points. One main point is Banana's way better looking than me. So the second point is I do believe this product is good enough to be more focused on what the product is and not so much who the founder is. I love it.
There you go.
And I love talking about it, but the main focus is it's a centralized code on the blockchain.
Yeah.
It does have a very passionate community that do grind for it, but don't depend on that passionate community 100%. I'm not saying I'm going anywhere, but the main focus is how powerful this system is as code on the blockchain, how powerful the BERT liquidity is, how powerful the BERT supply is. And I do believe that this product is going to make it into the top 50 of cryptocurrency. And everyone has to understand what comes along with that as far as being a founder of a project like that. And for my own family's safety and security, I think it's just best for me to remain somewhat private.
Yeah. I was even thinking of some security stuff in my slumber last night. And I'll share it with you privately, but I'm going to have to take some measures. I've known this for a while now, but it just it's becoming more clear to me. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it yet, but I was actually doing some research on it this morning, just, for my own safety and that of my family. So
yeah, and then I was kind of making the point on one of those panel discussions, just the opportunity that we have here. And I heard it go back to even out of the people who are still very pro Pulse Chain, like SJ and Fastaduel are very much pro Pulse Chain. The conviction of both those people is amazing. I love it. It's so amazing how hard SJ is grinding for this community, how positive she is, the conviction, the belief that she has. Sometimes I even think she knows more than the rest of the community due to her connections. I'm like, dude, this girl don't budge. You could go down another 90%. And she just sees opportunity there. Almost like she knows a little something. Obviously, I think she should. Look how connected she is to the top. But I even heard, a few times, don't forget that the blockchain is ran by a billionaire and he could pump the prices at any time. I tend to try to even think about Pulse Chain without that. And if you think of just a couple projects being successful on this chain, let's say pTGC, UFO, a couple other ones are actively onboarded. if pTGC actively onboards, you know, let's say in this next year, $3.5 million of net positive value, which is not much for an entire community. Let's say a couple other sub-communities do somewhat the same thing. You know, I hope not only for pTGC to be the only successful project on the chain, we want other successful businesses in the city. You know, other successful businesses drive users coming to the city, community members coming to the city, people to move to the city. And Pulse Chain has such little liquidity that if a couple projects are onboarding millions of dollars, that pushes Pulse Chain up X's. Like, by Pulse Chain going up X's, this onboards more people. This shows other builders how positive this space is. This gets users on Pulse Chain in profits, which makes them feel better. It really doesn't take much. Obviously, I think in general, Pulse Chain has that sell pressure over it, and that's kind of what a lot of people are negative about. Like, hey, every time we push up, there's that wall of sell pressure from people who have just been on the ship too long that went off on the next stop, which is completely understandable due to the experience. But there is new people getting on who are getting exposed to a brand new experience. There's products or other vessels that you can get on that have a completely different holder base that, in my opinion, are very, very strong. Like the pTGC and UFO community are very, very strong. We moved up 100% in the last week and only drew back 20%. And seems like we're kind of finding another nice level right around there. So if you're worried about those things, like people selling into pushes up, not only for your own holdings, but also for the onboards that you're bringing in, there's other vessels to bring them on Pulse Chain that don't only help Pulse Chain, because when you bring something to pTGC, you're pushing the price up of Pulse Chain. If they go into pTGC, pTGC is dragging the price up of PulseX and Hex because we're bonded to those tokens. All those tokens are also bonded to Pulse Chain. But you can bring them into vessels that I think have some pretty strong communities behind them that have proven that we're willing to let these things do X's, and we think these things are undervalued. We believe the price of these should be higher. UFO is a great example of it. I made a post about it. It went up, I think, like 60% in a week, and the whole entire market felt like it kind of topped out. Pulse Chain hit a top, Bitcoin, Ethereum hit a top, and everything pulled back. This is where pTGC kind of had that 20% pullback, a couple people taking profits, stuff like that, where UFO, like if you look at the price against Pulse, which is pretty much a good way to just see buyers and sellers on the chart because they've removed Chart's law, didn't even budge. Everyone was up 50%. No one cared. They're like, we think this thing's way higher.
Wow.
It's going way higher. So my point of it is, you know, I hear a lot of times, you know, people always going back to like, don't count out Richard, don't count out Richard, don't count out Richard. He could pump this at any moment, but also don't count out the true believers of this chain. Like, token distribution is getting better. 90% of the large sacrificers have already sold. We're getting close to the point to where anyone who wants to sold most likely has sold. And we do believe these products are worth a lot more. And I do believe markets are going to turn around. You know, we are heavily connected to ETH. ETH is the exact same price that it was 5 years ago. In my opinion, that's a bear market. Like, we're in it. I definitely think the people who are stabled up right now with a large percentage of their portfolio, I couldn't sleep at night being in that situation at these prices. I think the discount here is amazing.
Yep.
It could go lower. You know, I think a DCA method is always a great way to take it. Throw some in here. If it goes lower, you have some more dry powder to throw in, or maybe you're someone who still has your career or your job to where, you know, you're generating more value in the back end. And if it goes lower, you can take a portion of a paycheck or whatever and go one more time. But I believe Pulse Chain, I believe ETH, I believe Bitcoin can go at any moment. Is that in the next month? Is that 6 months from now? Who knows?
Yep.
But utilize the time to DCA the product that you believe will be successful this next bull market. pTGC was and UFO was one of the largest movers last cycle. They both did hundreds of X's. pTGC almost got to a $500 million market cap, currently only sitting at a $40 million market cap. I think this next cycle, pTGC is going to make its way it's the top 50 of all cryptocurrencies. And I think it's going to be one of the biggest winners. Again, I think the system is designed to be a multi-cycle system. Most cryptocurrencies are. And I do believe anyone on Pulse Chain deserves to take a position in it. Like, long time, Pulse Chain has given everyone, markets have given everyone the opportunity to get on board. It doesn't need to be with a massive amount. You don't got to sell your house, but try to DCA these prices. You don't got to sell your Pulse X or Hex. Like, do what you can to try to DCA some of these cheap prices.
Yeah, and if you're holding, you are effectively DCAing because you're earning reflections every single day. There is a question on YouTube. Pulse Hexagon says, when I look at pTGC on DEX tools, there's always tons of tiny trades, sells and buys from a few pennies to a few dollars, and many from the same wallet numbers. What is going on? Is that the bot? Yes. Most of those smaller trades that you see on DEX tools are bots.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah, pretty much all of those are arbitrage bots fixing pairs.
Yep, there you go, Pulse Hexagon. Lots of comments on YouTube today. I'll see if I can find some comments were worth reading. Like Super Snake says, so many are saying that PulseX Hex Inc. won't do a 100 to 1,000x pump. Makes me even more bullish for 26 to 27. I was called delusional for by a few of my onboards for just suggesting to DCA at these lows. We were just kind of talking about that. And Super Snake also says that SJ, a wild SJ, which is the girl on the panel yesterday, is a godsend for this community. She absolutely is. She's a champion for Richard Hart, Hex, and Pulse Chain. She's always positive on stream and is constantly promoting RH and the brand. Lucky to have her for sure. Yes. Yeah. She's an absolute gem. What are we at for ratios, Zen?
I think 14.
Let's see. Yeah, 14.2. So,
which is a good place, I think, to kind of hopefully find a floor to start building off of again. We went all the way up to 16 from, I think, 8. So we had a massive move up. You know, obviously, when you have a massive move up, there's people who take profits or rotate or whatever. This is kind of where I'm hoping we find ourselves, and we keep building and keep pushing forward and keep making our way to 100 to 1.
Yep. JV Minery says the ratio is sitting at 1 to 14. How do I gauge if pTGC is under or overvalued? So 1 to 14, you mean you get one pTGC for every 14 pulse. How do I gauge if pTGC is under or overvalued? Well, I don't know that.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer that one.
I personally believe we are going to make our way up to 100 to 1, like this push. You know, not this push in particular, but like throughout this cycle, my goal is to get us to 100 to 1 at least. I think we could get us higher.
Yeah.
As far as undervalued goes, like recently we hit 5 to 1. That was like the bare bottom. I'm hoping, you know, we never go there again, but there's always potential of stuff like that happening if a community member needs money or just taps out because of the time frame, or you never know. So You need to keep all that stuff in consideration. Again, the DCA method I think is a great way. But I do want to bring up that the pTGC community is doing everything that they can to keep this ratio moving up at these low levels. We have new features out. Our all-time high was 22 to 1, and that was at, I believe, over a year ago.
That was in February. Yep, last year.
We've grown a lot since then. Our distribution's gotten better. Burn supply has gotten better. LPE tokens have gotten bigger. I think even 22 to 1 is undervalued as far as what this product could be. We just got to get people to find out about it. And in the last week, we've proven that we can move up out of ranges very, very quickly. But I do look at pulse chain a lot when I look at undervalued pTGC. When pulse chain or ETH hits its bottom, I think these ranges are a great place to kind of consider close to the bottom. Again, it could go lower. I think it's worth a DCA at these levels because it might not. And I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't go lower because everyone's expecting it to go lower. And usually when everyone's expecting it to go lower, even if it does, it happens so quick that you can't even take action on it anyways. And it just kind of wicks down there and then wicks back. When pulse chain bottoms, when ETH bottoms, these have been some of the best times to rotate stables or less risk on assets into pTGC or fiat, So when pulse chain and ETH find its bottom, these are the best times to rotate ETH, pulse, stables, fiat into pTGC. And the best time to rotate out of pTGC if you want to take profits or, get some of your pulse or ETH back is when ETH or pulse kind of start to top off. These are more like long-term trading stuff. I'm not really a trader at all. I believe you just stack the bags of the things you believe in long term. I think over long periods of time, you'll be surprised on how much more you make by just holding on to great assets instead of trying to trade. Very quickly, you'll see someone make a quick 2x, and then they're on the hunt for the next thing, where if you just stayed on board with a single community, a single project that you actually had conviction in long term, you could just make 100x. You don't have to keep hunting and hunting and hunting. The more important thing is just finding that right token. You think of the people who got into ETH or got into Bitcoin during their first dips, kind of where we're at right now. And as long as they held on to their bag, they're pretty much done working forever.
Yeah.
Yep. But they had to hold on to it. If they sold most of their bag at a 2, 3, 4x, they're probably still working.
Yep. That's so true. I think about that all the time. Just hodl in my bags until Silent Descent says, can you guys please discuss if there is truly automated redistribution to UFO liquidity from taxes? There is not. There is not.
Yeah, pTGC has the automated liquidity ad with PLS. UFO does not have an automated liquidity ad. Where UFO gets its community or its liquidity is from the community providing liquidity via an incentive. So if you provide liquidity within UFO via our farms, you actually are getting paid an additional PLS reward. So you make the standard Pulse X rewards, but you also make PLS rewards on top of it. So that's where like all the liquidity of UFO even comes, is people being incentivized to buy it via the rewards. If you're someone kind of thinking about it, right now you can get some amazing share rates. I was using Shaka's new calculator with what kind of APYs you could receive in the future by locking in the share rates today. If we have time, we can run it later. It's some pretty high numbers. And that's because UFO is cheap and RH tickers are extremely cheap right now. You need both to create the pairing. That's how LP providing works, is you need to equal number of each or dollar value of each. So if you're someone who's looking for a PLS passive income stream, putting some long-term capital for you, UFO I think is a great opportunity right now, and it also increases the liquidity of UFO, making the buy and burns bigger or more often or higher dollar amounts, because arbitrage bots need to fix more pairs, not only for UFO, but also for pTGC. So if you're a pTGC maxi, the success of UFO is technically pumping your bags.
And he has a follow-up question, which I'll get to in just a second. But there is Saint Wolf posted on X 11 hours ago a poll asking which is better, pTGC or Hex. I dropped it in the chat on YouTube. It's in the Telegram also. Everybody go there. Here, I'll put it. Let's put it in the Jumbotron. Can somebody put it in the Jumbotron? And then everybody go there and and make a vote for pTGC. And then in the comments, he's one of my friends. So let's help his post and respond to his post. Put a comment, something educational about pTGC. You know, some kind of nice plug. And then the question. Go ahead.
I've had a few people send me that post in the last few hours.
Okay.
My first thoughts of it are really interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
my first thought is Hex is beating us still by a lot, which means there's a lot of people on Pulse Chain that still need to be educated and exposed to pTGC. Right off the bat, you're like, wow, we're getting destroyed by Hex.
Hex in this poll, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, in the poll. If a lot of people, I'm not saying it's not better, I'm just saying look at how much we're getting beaten at the moment. I believe we have a very strong, active, and fresh community that shows how many people still need education and exposure.
Oh, 100%.
To pTGC. And we're not saying sell your Hex. We're saying look at the 95% dip on pTGC right now. Look at what we did last cycle. And look at how much we support Pulse Chain, Richard, and Richard's products. It's worth a bag. I personally think. I think it's worth some exposure.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, I told this to a buddy. I think pTGC will perform better, but I want Hex to perform better than pTGC.
Exactly. It's a dilemma, isn't it?
Why is a lot of people might think like, bro, why would you want Hex? Well, first off, I know a lot of the people in pTGC also hold Hex. And, obviously that would help their bag. Second, pTGC itself owns a lot of Hex via its LP. So we would get 3 X's to our system by the success of the products that we're connected to. Also, if Hex started moving up, who do you think would start to become very active and who would be pumping their bags? Richard would most likely become more active and start tweeting more and marketing more, which I want that out of Richard. I think he's very good as far as a marketer for Pulse Chain, and if his products are doing good, I think his marketing ability will increase as well. And if Hex is going up in value, that means there's more value on this chain. That means there's more users coming to this chain. That means this chain is showing signs of success. This is everything that pTGC wants. We've proven we don't need it. We have enough in our own system to do X's, to have success, to grow. But if the things that we are connected to start to win and start to do good, like, dude, this is exactly what our community wants. So it's not so much a competition, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I believe we are on the same team. And I want that teammate to come in and shine. And I want them to be, MVP next cycle. That doesn't mean we're not going to strive to be MVP. We're going to keep working hard, but we got our teammates too.
That's right, man. I love that. Crypto7 made an interesting comment too. He said, which is better is the wrong question. Should you hold both is a better question. And here's a way that you could earn more Hex. Take your Hex and put it into an LP with UFO. And over time, I suspect that you are going to earn a lot of more Hex.
Well, yeah, you'd be earning PLS, and you can use that PLS to do whatever you want. The APY on both hexes have been recently decreased a lot. So there is other ways to earn APY on chain with the UFO farms with both hexes. So you can actually bring your EHEX over to Pulse Chain and now earn an APY and PLS. Obviously, impermanent loss is there, and you have to take that into consideration. I think anyone who's doing LP providing for an APY, those need to always be very long-term bags, because you need to not be worried about the impermanent loss short-term and be more worried about, hey, I want this passive income stream for a long time. But is solutions on chain, and keep in mind PTGC and UFO are very much bonded with Hex. So if Hex moves up, it's pushing up PTGC. If PTGC moves up, it's pushing up the price of Hex. They're actually working together, towards the same destination or towards the same goal. And I agree with Seven. It's not so much what's better. It's kind of what does better this cycle. And we actually hope that Hex does better than us because this is great for our system. We want the things we're bonded to do better than us. But what makes PTGC unique is in our code, in our community, we have what it takes to do better on our own. We are not dependent on these other things. We just root for them.
Yeah, I love that. Blue Diesel asked.
Again, I think our community can maybe hit the PTGC button and show Pulsion that we're here and we're strong and we're large.
So let's get this poll, guys. We're at 29.5%. Did anybody drop that into the Jumbotron? I think I might be able to go grab it and put it in the Jumbotron. Somebody put it in the Jumbotron so I don't have to do that. If you would. What's that?
I can hunt it down. Just give me a second.
Okay. Go vote on this poll and then make a comment. We're at 29.5% of the votes. Let's get to half the votes, which would be, that'd be 50%. Yeah. We only need like 20.5% more of the votes, guys. We can do this. Let's get to half of the votes. Zen is correct. The Hex community is enormous. Thankfully, a lot of them have come over to PTGC. So I'm very happy with 29.5%, but I think that a 50% or more, woo, hey, if we can get to 50%, why could we not get to 51%? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get to 51%. Everybody go vote. And if you got multiple X accounts, use them both. I'm going to go vote from the main account. Thank you for putting that in the Jumbotron or finding it, Zen. Who wants to?
Maybe don't hop into the main account until the space is over. I don't know if it messed it up at all.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. True. Thanks.
It might not. I don't know if you hop in there all the time and we're going to.
I don't.
So maybe it's not a problem, but.
Yeah. Good call. Okay.
There's one thing also that I wanted to talk about, but there just wasn't enough time. There's too many people that wanted to talk. But SJ was talking about how they're trying to think of ways to distribute these tablets.
Mm-hmm.
They have gotten 1.3 million of them, and they're saying that they've already distributed 200,000, which they've been working on it for like 6 months now. So they still, if they stay at this rate, they still got a good 4 months or whatever, or 4 years to go, which is crazy to think. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. And that's what I was meaning, like the effort and the conviction of these people is so high. RG3, it reminds me of the conviction I have for PTGC. You're like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes because I believe in this so much. Part of me always thinks, I'm just like, gosh, they have some information that they just aren't allowed to share. They had the information on the tablets before people, but that shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? We believe in Hex, we believe in Polston, we believe in Richard. We don't need to know all the secrets behind the scenes. But they're mentioning that they're trying to figure out ways to motivate, the community to get these out there. And they're trying to think of affiliate programs and stuff like that to reward users in more tablets, which equals more works. And I so badly, and I knew it was going to get shut down, but I did want to put it on their radar that with PTGC, we do have a built-in affiliate program where users that get brought into Polshin and go to PTGC do get paid. Like users actively onboarding can actually get paid for onboarding. And if someone gets into PTGC, and I know this isn't the goal of these tablets is to get them into PTGC, But I wanted to remind her, like, if they get into PTGC, if you bring a no coin or another blockchain user into PTGC, you're pumping Pulse Chain, you're exposing people to Pulse Chain, and you're pumping Pulse X and Hex and every Richard Hart ticker because we're so bonded with them in liquidity. And it's a way that their community who's actively using these tablets and trying to find ways to onboard, they can get these guys paid.
Yep.
It's very difficult to get people to hand out tablets daily with no reward. Like, I don't know if they're getting paid or not. What they're trying to incentivize them with is actually, which is more work. Not saying they would do this. You know, I know that it's probably all just for Richard Hart products, but if they were to put PTGC referral codes on there, like if RS Griffin made their own PTGC referral code, and if anyone came in and bought PTGC, RS Griffin could actually start earning value to compensate their hardest grinders, or maybe they just let some of their biggest people make their own referral links and use those tablets as a way to onboard to Pulse Chain through PTGC, because they can actually get rewarded for their time with PTGC, which is a very liquid, very highly backed token. Not saying they would do that, but I did want to mention it because I think this is the struggle for most cryptocurrency. I think this is something that PTGC resolved, and why this next bull run is going to be so massive for PTGC is the compensation to the direct compensation to the people onboarding to the protocol. And the unique thing about PTGC is if anyone gets in PTGC, it's pumping Pulse Chain, it's pumping Pulse X, it's pumping Hex. It's technically, it's increasing the value of the tokens that they're trying to market with these tablets.
Nice.
I know it's a far stretch, but I did want to mention it. Like, hey, maybe delegate 100,000 tablets in that direction and see if there's a success rate. Like, we'll be able to tell. We'll see the affiliate rewards on our site, and we'll be able to give that information back to you guys, you know, especially if we get green candles, and green candles attracts more people. I actually think it could be very successful for them to try a portion of their tablets in that direction. Obviously, the grays would benefit drastically too, but it's a way that they can get people for pumping Pulse Chain and pumping Hex and pumping Pulse X through the PTGC system.
Yep. Walter says, I know there are good tokens out there, but why would some of the panel be negative toward deflationary tokens?
I didn't really hear anyone too negative. Maybe one person in general, I think, was more just negative on the market. And they think Pulse Chain's going a lot lower, and Bitcoin and Ethereum are going a lot lower, which is understandable. A lot of people are in that boat right now. And again, like, that was the hard thing about that panel, is we never got to fully go deep into a discussion, because I was, you know, kind of thinking when someone says that, I'm like, we're at $1,900 Ethereum. Like, how low do you really think Ethereum could go, and how long? Like, is it a quick wick to 1,500 that most people are not going to catch? Or do you think it's going to hang out there? Do you not think that all-time lows of Pulse Chain is not a great DCA? Even if that is a more short-term bag, like, you're like, hey, I'm going to get this money back at half of SAC rate. The only reason I'm putting this in is because it's such a good opportunity. I shouldn't maybe expose myself to more, but my last DCA was at half a SAC rate. I think we can easily go back there. I'm at least going to get my other DCA back at half a SAC rate, but at least I scooped this mega discount where I got 6 times the amount of tokens for the same price. People who have the ability, you know, through dry capital to scoop the dips are the people who win. You know, you have to be able to scoop these dips, because there's people who are scooping these dips. He was saying, you know, I'm worried that when things go back to SAC rate, there's going to be people who scoop the dip, you know, who want to take profits. He's 100% right. there is people who are scooping the dip. Look at the pTGC community. We're technically getting this dip dripped into our wallet every single day with every single transaction. Look at the Dow. We've made, I think, 1.4 billion pulls in the last week, which we're going to use that to better our system. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. But I also think the people who are scooping the dip, like the Grays, have a lot of conviction of Pulse Chain. And the tokens that are being sold at these levels and rotating into strong hands at these levels, that's naturally what has to happen. Those tokens need to make their way to stronger hands because obviously the people who are selling here don't value them that much.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. And we did get invited to stream with Cultivate Crypto. Again, he wants to stream with us. So we will have a chance to, elaborate on everything that we couldn't yesterday. So that was.
Yeah, but it felt like the combo bounced to different topics so quick that we never even got to finish on.
Yeah. Yep. JV Minery is asked, dude, you're asking some great questions. And by the way, guys, this is for everybody. I do an onboarding. I call it an onboarding stream every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on my channel, the Prairie Banana. And it's for helping new people acclimate to the system. So I walk through the entire ecosystem basically in about, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. So you guys are all welcome to jump in there. And then on Fridays, like if you guys want to see a marketing stream, I did a stream on marketing yesterday, just for 1 hour. I talked about how we can market on X and YouTube and propagate our referral links. That's on my YouTube channel. But JV Minery, and I'll be doing that again next Friday, by the way. JV asks, at these prices, why is it better to keep adding LP instead of buying and burning? I guess I need some clarification on that. Are you talking about pTGC? I think he must be talking about pTGC or UFO. At these prices, why is it better to keep adding LP instead of buying and burning?
So for pTGC, just for him to know, he might not realize this, but pTGC has been heavily focusing on buying and burning more recently. So throughout the last few months, we put tons of value into buying and burning. I would say probably, if I had to guess, around 10, at least buying. We have a lot of the reserve of the pTGC sitting there, but I would say at least around 10 billion PLS has been used to buy up the chart of pTGC at that 20 million market cap level. And we've still been doing it. We did another $1,000 just yesterday, a couple $1,000 the day before. So I completely hear him out. We've been putting a ton of focus in at buying and burning at these low levels. And it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with, hey, if you go to cheap prices and a bunch of people buy those cheap tokens, as prices move up, you're going to have to absorb those people because they're going to be in profit. A lot of the cheap price pTGC hasn't only been bought by strong hands. A good portion of it has been bought by the dead address. We've been buying and burning these tokens, so we'll never have to absorb these tokens as prices move up even further. That being said, that doesn't mean we haven't done LP ads. We did a massive, or not massive, but a pretty decent LP ad with Pulse X when Pulse X did like that mega dip to its all-time low. Also, every single transaction of pTGC is actually fueling the PLS LP pool automatically. So I think we've added, a few $1,000s in that just in the last week. Every single transaction is adding to that for the rest of ever. So there's automated features within pTGC. We're automatically buying and burning every single day. We're automatically adding LP every single day, the two things that very much matter. But then there's also what we're doing with the DAO, which right now is a combination of reserves and also buy and burns, getting these cheap tokens off the market to where when it is go time, when we start moving up, we're never going to have to absorb these tokens again. They're getting put into the strongest hands that exist, which is the dead address.
Yep. The debt address is the largest holder of pTGC, and it cannot ever be sold. And that debt address, the tokens in that debt address, guys, they don't earn reflections either.
Yeah, or staking rewards. So every time we send tokens there, your APY is technically increasing as long as you don't decrease the size of your bag.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hayden, the other part of the question though was, right, why would you add LP down here? I think it's important to answer that other half of the question, because there is a reason why you would add LP, right? As well as buying and burning the supply of the asset.
Couple reasons why you would add LP. You would want to add LP with tokens that you think are going to have value and that are going to go up, because that value going up drags your token up, and that increase of value helps your liquidity as well. By adding liquidity down here, you're increasing the size of the liquidity web, and that increases value generation. And the more value generation we can do helps price move up. I actually tweeted about this recently too. Like, a lot of people don't realize that pTGC is like a self-propelling machine. As we increase price, as we increase liquidity, we're technically in a way increasing our volume. As we increase volume, we increase value generation. As we increase value generation, we increase liquidity and price. And again, that it kind of keeps looping around. And when the market pushes up, or when pTGC pushes up, it actually starts this momentum. And we've seen when this momentum picks up, that's where pTGC has made these massive moves. When the whole entire market starts coming down, that momentum slows down. Markets coming down, people selling, etc. But it seems like that momentum's starting to pick up again. And what we've seen is when that momentum picks up with pTGC, and when that system circle starts triggering, it's really difficult to stop pTGC from making some serious moves. But yeah, why add LP down here? Bonding yourself with undervalued tokens, especially tokens that have their own market. We put a little bit of focus into that recently with some ETH LPs, giving ourselves some liquidity tying with something that's not all attached together, with some legacy feel, some liquidity with real value outside of Pulse Chain. But yeah, bonding with things that you think are undervalued is definitely better than bonding to things that you think are overvalued. Because when you bond to things undervalued, they'll help drag your price up. If you bond to things that are overvalued, they'll help drag your thing down, which is a good example of kind of what's happened in the last year. We were so heavily bonded to Pulse Chain, which we didn't believe was overvalued, but obviously the market told us it was overvalued. It's been going down for the last year, and that in a way dragged the price of pTGC lower. That's what's given this amazing opportunity to onboard and to educate and to grab bags of pTGC. Wasn't only pTGC, making really high prices and being sold into. It was also the things that we're bonded to going to make all-time lows. And all that is, to me, is just an opportunity for people to get an amazing deal on pTGC if they could, get the cojones to take action on it.
Yeah, I'll just say in a different way. That was great, Hayden. Thanks for answering that. I'll just personally say in a different way that adding LP at the bear market, trends of the cycles for a system like this, when you add a new LP, like we recently began to add a nice Ethereum pairing, it adds what I like to just call a new revenue center. It adds a new revenue center. So the minute that you pair pTGC, for example, with an Ethereum, which is not correlated with Richard Hart things, it immediately bonds our asset with a legacy asset in this example, and immediately begins to generate volume for the system, which generates that 5% fee, and that 5% fee pays you APY, buy and burns the tokens, goes to the DAO, and adds to LP and everything that happens with that. So when you can continuously add revenue centers, new revenue centers, the best time to add those revenue centers and to pair them with the token is when that asset is undervalued. Because the second that it turns around, that LP, I think currently right now that LP is around 40,000. It was over 50,000 when ETH and Bitcoin were moving up last week, right? So if ETH moves up to 5,000 to 10,000 to 15,000, you've bonded it at 15, 18, right? So yeah, that's the reason why you bond at a low, because when these assets reverse, you're given free USD revaluations, and it deepens and thickens the liquidity of the asset. And at the same time, through that reflexive nature, the way that the DEXs work, it helps to bring up the price of pTGC because it's bonded with those things. So it's important to have a balance between buy and burns and LP ads because of how the mechanics are created and actually benefit the system for all holders.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, guys, that a buy and burn also helps increase the LP. Every purchase on the chart is PLS going into the liquidity web, and then that PLS getting distributed throughout all of the LPs we have, increasing those LPs. Like recently, you could see our liquidity increasing a lot, not necessarily because the tokens we were connected to were making massive moves. They went up a little bit, but because users were coming into pTGC, they wanted pTGC, so they were putting value into pTGC's liquidity and taking out the pTGC. So when users buy, they're actually putting their value to work in our liquidity web, which is filling up all of our liquidity pools based on their sizes. So you could see the ETH pool growing, you can see the PulseX pool growing, the Hex pool growing, the Pulse pool growing, because they want the pTGC out of it. They want the pTGC to be in their wallet as, pretty much a claim check to all that liquidity, but with passive income, they're getting paid the APY, exposed to deflation. They like the fact that there's less and less tokens every single day, and there's more and more LP every single day. And then we're now increasing, now that we've built up that ETH pair. Well, as we push up against the market, that ETH pair is actually growing, and we don't even need to add to it because every single purchase is actually filling up more ETH in there, more ETH in there, more ETH in there, which is cool, right? Like, I think it is important for us to evolve as we evolve. Right now we're still a very speculative token that can do crazy amounts of X's, but in the future, we want to be less speculative and evolve into a larger store of value system to where we still have price appreciation, but we have sustainability, built-in APY, deflation, all the things people are looking to store very large amounts of value in. And one of those things is diversification in the legacy pairs as well, not just very volatile RH tokens, but also very sustainable legacy tokens that have been around for 13 years, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And by us moving up in price, we're also filling those pools up as well, making those value generation centers, as Mando was talking about, even larger.
Yeah, the ability for the system, and then Prairie, you can chime back in. The ability for the system to constantly add new revenue centers at strategic times.
Oh, dude.
It really is a phenomenal situation for holders long term, because everything is on the EVM. It looks as if the market has chosen Ethereum because of its unique decentralized nature as something that is programmable money as opposed to Bitcoin. So the fact that that's all happening on an EVM and we're basically an exact duplicate copy of that EVM structure, it just opens up a world of opportunity for us because it's so easy to bridge those legacy assets in, pair with them, creating new revenue centers. And it's all based off volume and volatility, and we're constantly generating revenue. It just, as this continues to move on, it just continues to just strengthen the system.
100%, Mando. I'm just thinking as you're talking, I'm about coming out of my skin, man. Like pTGC is a token that's going to continually be full of surprises. Like we never know when we're going to make our next a pairing with some real world asset that comes across the bridge, and the Dow decides, hey, we're going to pair with this, and then we announce it on X and on YouTube and everywhere. You know, this is going to be ongoing for as long as pTGC exists.
And I would say this too, like there's a lot of thought into what those assets are.
Yes.
And there's a very smart group of people that are analysts that are constantly bringing those to the table, you know, asking the tough questions, because I do envision pTGC becoming a megalith index of not just RH things. And as this next cycle begins to turn around, and it absolutely will, because the world is going to crypto.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, Bitcoin can bottom out in the 40s or whatever, and ETH could bottom out at 15 or 13 or whatever. None of that matters. The world's going that way, and that's just a fact of life. It's not a speculation. So once this next cycle turns around, the revenue generation, and this is a reality now, guys, you can see pTGC doesn't need Pulse Chain to go up in price. pTGC doesn't need PDI to go up in price. pTGC doesn't need your WIMs to go up in price. pTGC mechanically via code has deflationary mathematical financial principles built into smart contracts. They do not ever stop. And once you understand that reality, and once you understand that the distribution is already almost to a point where as we keep going, that distro, it just gets stronger and stronger. But the mechanics, the underlying fundamental mechanics, the financial principles that undergird this thing, they cannot be changed. They cannot be altered. And so the only thing that can actually happen is for the revenue that's being generated to continue to add new revenue centers, to continue to add more pivotability, to continue to remove tokens from supply, which continues to pay out more APY to the existing long-term holders. The reality is that the system can only do what the system's programmed to do. We're witnessing right now a bear market. We're witnessing all-time lows on some of the fundamental assets, but look at how fast the system can go from an $18 million market cap to a $50 million market cap within weeks. The entire time generating revenue, adding more revenue. So when that revenue turns around, when the price goes up, well, guess what? We were just at 50 million. And just think about this. Now we're at 40 million. Okay, so people had to buy that up. So part of that was reflexivity. But the liquidity pools in the code don't care how that happened. The liquidity pools and the code only do what they do. They say, okay, somebody just bought a $15,000 bag. All the liquidity pools are rebalanced and shifted. Okay, we've got to rebalance everything. Pay us, 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 pay us. Okay, everything's rebalanced again. Somebody else sells. It unbalances the pairs. Pay us, pay us, pay us, pay us. This never stops. So the speculative thing of, oh, I like meme coins, or this is why we're seeing a floor of 20 million on this asset right now, with the assets in the LPs owned at all-time lows. So people really need to start realizing that what's been built on this blockchain, Pulse chain, honestly, it's superior to its underlying fundamental assets. The pTGC suite of smart contracts is superior financially to the dumb pipe it's built on top of. When people start to realize this, that it's not dependent and contingent on the dumb pipe that it's built on top of, like Richard calls an L1, that's when the light bulb really goes off. It can't stop doing what it's programmed to do. And we're far past now, and I'll stop, we're far past the proof of concept stage. We're almost 3 years in. So if the proof of concept stage has already been proven to you as a community, and we have literally millions of people to put this in front of over the course of the next 4 years. And all of the assets are at bottoms, including the legacy assets, and they can probably go a little bit lower, and probably will, because this is probably a dead cat bounce. Then where is this asset potentially headed? If it's not a joke, if it's not a scam, if it's not a scheme, if it's just real raw math and financial principles, where's it really going? That's really the question that people need to start asking when it comes to Gray's currency. Because it's not just a freaking meme with an alien face. It's actually mathematical financial principles set in code with real capital being generated every day and redistributed to the only places in finance that matter.
Yeah, and the capital that we're able to generate at this level is way different than the amount of capital that we could be able to generate in the future. Like what pTGC is today and what the price is of pTGC today could drastically change as markets shift and as we grow on our own.
Well, we just watched that happen, Hayden, just like the other day. Like we're at 50,000 volume, 40,000, and then all of a sudden 200,000 volume, just like that.
Yep.
Well, and you know, and the value generation off of $200,000 in value is obviously 4 times that amount. But you know, eventually, with the success of markets and success of ourselves, you know, we'll be at $1 million in volume, and then instead of, you know, at $1 million in volume, we're generating $50,000 a day, and then we get to shove $50,000 to all the places that matter: buy and burn, sell PIAC, and rewards for the people who hold a bag. And then, you know, once those levels are hit, we'll make our way to the next level and then next level. And, you know, and I think that's the overall goal of pTGC is, you know, it's people maybe don't take it seriously, but it's very serious to me is right now we're still in the speculative phase where people can get large amounts of token for very cheap. But our goal is to become a better store of value than some of the best store of values that exist in this world, Bitcoin and Ethereum, because I truly believe we've design the system to put value into all the features that matter in that category. And a lot of the best store values that exist, like you said, it's just the infrastructure of the city. Those aren't the restaurants and the buildings and the businesses within the city. I look at pTGC more as the restaurant, the business, the building, and Pulse Chain as the infrastructure. Obviously, the better the roads, the better the public parks, the better the sidewalks, the better the city, right? But that's not so much. And then usually that makes the businesses and the restaurants better within that city. But we're not dependent on that. And obviously that infrastructure isn't looking super hot right now. But I believe all that is going to bounce back. I believe Ethereum will bounce back. Bitcoin will bounce back. Pulse Chain will bounce back. And then what that does for us as being a separate product on those things, with all of the things that matter being our main focus and us actually generating revenue and being able to put value towards those main focuses, could be massive, right? And like, I think it is a fair goal to say like, hey, we might be smaller. Hey, we might, you know, have a little bit more volatility, but as far as storing value go, what matters? Like as a user, what do you want to be exposed to when you store value? You want to be exposed to price appreciation. Like the last 5 years for Ethereum has not been great. We're literally the exact same price as we were 5 years ago on Ethereum.
Like literally being in JP Morgan diversified investment accounts has been better than being in Ethereum, which is hard to believe. But that still, Ethereum is one of the best store of values that exists. I personally believe as we evolve and as people see, you know, where all this value that we generated is going, especially on a bigger scale, people will start to realize like this truly can be a better store of value system than a lot of the things that exist, not only in cryptocurrency, but in the entire market.
There's another.
In the meantime, in the crazy part, and in the meantime, we can make a crazy amount of exits because it's a journey to that level, and that journey is hundreds of exits.
JV Minery asks another question. He says, how do you determine, this is a few minutes ago, which RH ticker to add LP to, or is it always Pulse Chain? Well, I'll put my comment in there just quickly. It is always Pulse Chain. The AMM bots, the 5% fee, that's always being added to Pulse Chain. But you're talking about the 2% that goes to the DAO. That is decided on by the DAO. So how do we determine which RH ticker or which ticker we LP with? I mean, is it the volume to liquidity ratio?
No. So like, for example, like right now, the DAO is really not adding liquidity with RH tickers because it's automatically adding with every transaction to Pulse Chain. The DAO did make a move when there was a mega dump on Pulse X recently with that mega seller. And rotated some Pulse into Pulse X because the ratio was so out of skew that it was an obvious move. And then that was added to LP in the Pulse X LP. So that's an example of why you would make a move like that. But that's an example of just shifting value from Pulse into Pulse X because the ratios were just way out of whack, for example, right? But the DAO, but the system owns so much RH ticker. Like right now, if you look at just the Pulse LP, Gray's currency alone, not including what's in UFO, owns 32 billion Pulse Chain in LP.
Yep.
When we began the journey, our goal was to have 5 billion Pulse burnt into the LP. Now we're headed toward 40 billion just in one LP.
An 8x that goal, man.
Right. So now you only get one opportunity currently with the way that the cycles work once every 4 years for the general broader market to go into a bear market. Well, what does that mean? That means that you only have one real opportunity to, as Bitcoin goes down, as Ethereum goes down, as all these assets come down, you have one opportunity to enlarge the web at lows, at cycle lows that aren't RH tickers, right? Or that are on Pulse Chain, but that are something that maybe you want to add to the web as a revenue center. So there's a lot, obviously, that needs to be thought about, and you actually need to be very just benevolent toward what's the best thing to do with what we already have, and to enlarge the web 100% with how can this maximize benefiting the system to benefit holders with what is already there and what's coming in at any given time. So Hayden, would you say, Zen, would you say that you're comfortable right now with the amount of LP that the system has with RH tickers at this point? And is there a pivot toward non-RH tickers because of where we're at in the cycle?
I think obviously I want more of anything, but there is only so much value that we're bringing in daily. And you have to ask yourself, where is that value best put? Like if there was unlimited amounts of value, well, let's keep filling everything up. but there is a limited amount of value just because there's a certain amount that we take in every single week, and being proactive and smart with what that value is going towards, I think is really important. Like, you know, more recently, there's been the focus on the buy and burns. And we believe that this is the main focus right now because we have a ton of RH's tickers. As our price moves up, it fills the LPs up of those RH tickers even more. We've seen that in the last week. And then also we believe pTGC, as far as a token goes, is extremely strong and undervalued right now. So just because RH tokens are undervalued doesn't mean we don't also think pTGC is undervalued. And again, we have so much capital, and what we're trying to do is say, what is the best use for this capital right now? And what we are kind of working on is, we think just putting the PLS into the LP pool via buy and burns, that gets spread out across our current liquidity web. So that's increasing every liquidity pool, and then getting those pTGC tokens that we think are literal diamonds in the rough off the market to where they could never be sold into the market again is the best use of that value. As far as pairing with non-RH tickers, it's obviously our goal to not only be a diversification of RH tickers, but be a diversification of what everyone wants in their wallets. And we have a good opportunity to scoop ETH or Bitcoin up at cheap prices right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's all we want to add to. It's just we're kind of looking at opportunities in front of us right now. Obviously, Pulse Chain ETH can go a little bit lower, and that's kind of why we're taking that diversified approach to cover all bases. We believe the buying of pTGC covers our bases on the RH tickers because we know that we are RH tickers by bonded liquidity, and every time we do a buy and burn, we're filling those pairs up. And then also taking a little bit of action on those more legacy pairs, making it to where we have other revenue centers and also some connected liquidity with real value outside of Pulse
Chain. And he asked another question. He says, my family and I were discussing at the dinner table last night whether it's better for pTGC to add LP to all RH tickers or just the deflationary tickers like PulseX and ProveX. Can you all settle the debate?
So again, that's kind of where I was getting with the buy and burns. Is the buy and burn kind of adds to every RH ticker. It pretty much adds to our entire liquidity web evenly based on the size of the liquidity pool. So the larger the liquidity pool, the more of that buy sits in that liquidity pool, to where when you do a legit liquidity add, you're focusing on one specific pool and saying, I want this one to grow over every single other one. I'm someone who thinks that the deflationary tokens of Pulse Chain, especially off of these low levels, will have the best sustainability long term. I think the amount of tokens being taken out of circulation, being burnt on PulseX, isn't showing right now what it's going to do for the price in the future, but I think it is adding up behind the scenes. I know this because I see what it's doing with pTGC. I see what it's doing for UFO, and you don't really see it on the chart short term, but it is adding up. Those tokens that would have to go into hands are not going into hands. They're going into the strongest hands that exist, the debt address. As far as ProveX goes, I'll have to see what that launch looks like, but obviously it hasn't had 3 years of buying and burning going on. So there is probably that time period that will have to exist for ProveX to buy out hands or short-term mindset thinkers. But I think definitely PulseX has gone through a lot of that already. When Pulse Chain bottoms, this is kind of everything I always go back to, is look for the bottom on Ethereum, look for the bottom on Bitcoin, look for the bottom on Pulse Chain. Every time we have found those bottoms, those have been the best time to get into these reflexive tokens on Pulse Chain. There's no guarantee of everyone going up, but if you can hunt down the best communities and the strongest tokenomics, this has been the way to multiply your portfolio by a drastic amount. Like if people are asking, how do I win in these markets? It seems like the pumps of Ethereum, the pumps of Bitcoin, the pumps of alt tokens are getting less and less every cycle. So how do you win? Especially with meme tokens. It's very difficult to find good meme tokens nowadays because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And people can literally mint meme tokens with the click of a button, where people don't have conviction. Devs don't care. They're just pumping and dumping them constantly. What used to be considered a pump and dump, technically like illegal, is now just the normal cause of action. It's just part of the game now. They don't even consider it bad. So the environment's evolving. And one thing I think that's just really important, sorry, it's getting really windy here. One thing that I think is important is just look at what pTGC has done in the past when the markets have bottomed. These have equaled the best prices to get into pTGC. And anyone who took action at these prices needed very little X's out of the blockchain and very little X's out of Bitcoin and Ethereum to make massive moves in our specific ecosystem. And you have to be able to, in my opinion, do that nowadays, because a lot of people think, hey, I'm counting on Richard to do this. I'm counting on Richard to do this. Well, there's thousands of people counting on Richard to change their lives. And to be honest, it's somewhat out of their control when you're just giving everything to Richard. I do believe pTGC not only is, with Richard and on the same team as Richard, and we benefit off of the success of those tokens, but when you go into this sub-token, we have the ability to multiply the growth we get out of Pulse Chain by a crazy amount. And my best example is each time Pulse Chain's bottomed and Pulse Chain has moved up, we've done like 10x moves against Pulse Chain. And those moves have been with very little value flowing into Pulse Chain. So when Pulse Chain went up 5x, we went up 50x. That's a big difference to your portfolio. When Pulse Chain went up 3x, we went up 30x. That's a big difference to your portfolio. And it's, obviously you're taking on a form of risk, but it can drastically change the outcome of this next cycle for a user. It drastically changed the last cycle for the people who took action at these low levels, a couple of years ago. And what Pulse Chain has given and what the markets have given is a new opportunity to scoop the dip, the 95% dip on pTGC. And I do think the opportunity is just blatantly in everyone's face. Obviously, Bitcoin Pulse can go lower, but you don't know where that low is. So there's great ETA opportunities. And it's a great way to kind of put the ball back in your court for your family and your own financial future. Have a part of it. With pTGC, one person can make a huge impact for their own portfolio, let alone the entire communities, not only from onboarding and getting paid, but also from price appreciation. And that's what's nice about being in these sub tokens on this chain.
So I just want to reiterate. I just want to just bring up the fact that, we're in a ecosystem. Can you mute out then? Yeah, thanks. We're in an ecosystem where we're, with Gray specifically, it's currently, I think it's 498 ranked in the world. So he was just talking about how many blockchains there are, how many tokens there are, how many, protocols there are, right? And even though we're on Pulse Chain, the Grays is in the top 500 currently. It was just headed to the top 400. We've already been in the top 200. And I think it's also important to know that when the token goes down into that 20 million range, there is a lot of new onboarding happening. Those individuals are being brought into the system at a 20 million, $40 million range, not 100,000. I think it's important to realize that at that range, at that kind of area, the community recognizes that that is a very undervalued valuation for something like this. And so the Dow just literally can just take the revenue that it's generating and just buy you out of your position forever. And none of you have enough tokens to dump forever. You just don't. So at some point, the people who have any amount of, I think there's only like 13 whale positions left or something like this. I don't think that there's more than that. Or what do you got, Barry?
14.
Okay, so there's 14 whale positions. We know pretty much all of them, and they're pretty damn strong handers. Yep. Okay, like they don't like selling pTGC at all. Some of them just don't sell anything. They just literally just keep putting it back in. But that doesn't matter. Every single legitimate token has some people that hold at higher levels. My point is though, is that if you see, like, we're 6 months out, in my opinion. Let's just put it, if it's a standard market cycle, October's the bottom. If it's a standard structured market cycle, October's going to be the bottom for Bitcoin and Ethereum. It could completely front run that in the environment that we're in. But that would be a normal, 365 days from the top down. And that's from October, November, December, January, February, March. We're already 6 months in. So that literally leaves like 6 months. April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 6-7 months. Where do you think pTGC is going to be between now and 6 and 7 months? If it went back down to the 20 million, 30 million, $20 million range, don't you just think that it would just kind of mimic what it just did? And it would just take that much more tokens off the market and get that much more tokens into strong hands, be able to add to the arsenal, because right now there's revenue being generated. Some of that revenue is at these levels, even just buying and burning the tokens, You'd be literally doubling that amount of token burning up. That pushes Pulse into the pool. That gets those tokens out of there, continues to buy people out of their positions. A lot of it is immediately going into USDC, okay? Because if the market goes lower, you're going to be able to pick up those assets for way lower. So there's massive strategy going on behind the scenes. This is why the floor of pTGC right now is bottomed at a 4.5 to 1 ratio with Pulse and a $20 million market cap. And then instantly, once it hit that and just kind of channeled there for a few weeks, boom, new users come in, you're at 50 million, just like that. That's how fast it happens, guys. So you got to really think, like, what is really going on for the next 5 to 6 months? Are we not going to add more users? Are we going to have less users? Are we going to have more users? Are we going to have more USDC in the treasury or less USDC? Are we going to buy and burn more tokens or buy and burn less tokens? Well, the answer is simple. It's going to keep doing what it's been doing, Zed. And so that 20 million market cap range for me, it truly represents the bottom of this system. Now, that's not financial advice, but when you get down there and so right now we're basically just a 2x off of that floor, off of that range. And look how fast it just bolted up after a few weeks down there. So this is why, and I remember, Zen, last month we were telling people in the VCs and we were telling people on X in these spaces that we really believe that this is feeling way undervalued at this point. There's a tipping point to the math, right? And there's just not enough people willing to sell the tokens anymore in mass at all that really tanks the price of the token much further from here. So that's not a sales pitch, guys. That's just like watching this thing every day. It's like, wow, the system really is generating a good amount of revenue. The assets are at all-time lows. It's now bonding itself with like the premier silver to Bitcoin's gold legacy asset, and is continuing to do that. That generates in itself a whole new paradigm and a whole new asset class of investors. When they look at the web, and it's not just RH things, it's also legacy things, and those things are new revenue centers. And when the system, when the general market turns back on, and it goes from 15 to 18 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, 8 to 10 to 12, wherever the hell Ethereum is going to go, guys, the system at that point, how do you stop it? That's a great question to ask. How would you stop a system like this at that point? The assets are in the LPs. It's like an opportunity of a freaking lifetime if you know what you're looking at. Truly, I think that the only thing that can really stop a system like this would be if Pulse Chain just stopped somehow. I just don't see that happening. Maybe you can just comment on that realities end for a minute, and then I think Lika can come up and he may have a question. But to me, this is where we're at. 20 million, in my opinion, represented the bottom of this thing.
Yeah, my tweet, I think a day ago, I think says that same thing. Is I think where Pulse Chain or where pTGC and UFO are at right now is, like you said, the proof of concept has shown to exist. And when the momentum starts, the price goes up, liquidity goes up, equals more volume, volume equals more value generation makes the price go up even more. Once we push this ball or this snowball down a hill, it's going to start to pick up momentum that is going to be very, very difficult to stop. Like you said, and what is that push? The push can come from a couple different things. It's most likely going to come from a combination of things, a combination of the market bottoming and then starting to move back up, Pulse Chain bottoming and starting to move back up, and our community efforts in the meantime, pushing our ratio up and filling up these LPs and just what we do with our own sub-ecosystem. But I agree. I think the opportunity is right here in front of everyone. Everyone on Pulse Chain has the opportunity right now. Pulse Chain has given everyone the opportunity to fill up on the bags of any token that's been out for 3 years. Anyone can grab a bag of whatever, right? There's a complete reset going on right now. And I do believe once the momentum gets pushed, once the button gets pushed with pTGC, it's going to propel itself really, really hard due to the mechanics in the future. We've seen it before. People were wondering, how is pTGC going to close to a 500 million market cap token with Pulse Chain at half of sacrifice price? And it was because that momentum started. Obviously, that was the top of alt season for cryptocurrency when Trump came in, and it's had a pullback ever since then. So I think that's a good way to look at how does this stop? Well, there is market cycles. People got put in a lot of profits. Technically we're in a alt season bear market from there. Distribution happened, but I believe the same thing is going to happen with a better move out of Pulse Chain this time, a better move out of Ethereum this time. And if we get a better move out of Pulse Chain than Ethereum and we're this much stronger, which we are, distribution, buy and burn supplies, LP ads, I tend to think that the next move could be absolutely amazing and super, super powerful. And I don't know what could actually stop it if it gets going, right? If we
Zen, I was in a space 2 or 3 days ago, and Giga, who the community knows very well, very smart on the chain guy, and I was listening to a conversation, and one thing that he said about pTGC, he doesn't talk a lot about pTGC, but he knows all about it in UFO. But one of the things that he put out there, and he doesn't put out a lot, when it comes to certain things, was that the system of pTGC, in terms of its liquidity, is literally on the cusp of being right there with Hex and Richard's own assets on the chain. When you start having people see that you have a system on the chain, if you go to GoPulse or you look at the bubble maps for longevity or for depth of liquidity, you're going to start to realize that pTGC is becoming a massive financial product on this blockchain. And the people who really understand smart contracts, how liquidity pools work and everything, are starting to really say, when you got somebody like a Giga in the space saying, yeah, one thing I can say is that the liquidity is starting to rival some of the RH tickers almost at this point. That's not even including the fact that it's revenue generating, that it's buying and burning, that it's starting to bond itself now to legacy assets bridged in to the blockchain that the biggest hedge funds in the world are beginning to add to their portfolios. Where is this thing going? I don't know. But it's important to note that the people on the chain that operate on the chain, that are smart individuals, they're beginning to recognize it. And, that, guys, nobody knows about this thing yet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. Literally, there's only 3,000 to 4,000 people that even own a bag of any size of pTGC. I think it's like $100 or more, or $200 or more. It's only 3,000 to 4,000 people. If you just double that, if you just double the holders that have $200 to $300 or more, so you get 4,000 new people in that have a decent supply, there's just not enough supply for the rest of the world. We're in this echo chamber where there's just barely
there's plenty of supply, but it just means the price has to just skyrocket, dude.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it shoves the price up so high. I think anyone on Pulse Chain, everyone feels bummed. They're like, this isn't what I expected. I thought we were going to be rich by now, whatever. But where there is unique opportunity is about these unique products before anyone even knows about Pulse Chain. You might just watch them. You might not get on board, and you might have to watch pTGC for the rest of your life as you sit here on Pulse Chain without a bag.
Yeah.
But there is opportunity there. And maybe it's not the opportunity of getting it a 100K market cap like a lot of people on Pulse Chain want. Like they're so against getting anything unless they get it the first day at 100K market cap. But just keep in mind, what pTGC is by far different than 99.9% of things. Pulse Chain gave you a 95% dip on pTGC, and you can get on board and be with the community, or you have to watch it do its thing, which has been painful for a lot of people. I see them complain on Twitter. It's painful for them when we start to go. You don't have to make it painful. You can get on this team and not have to watch it just crank for the rest of your life.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I think people need to stop, treating these things like they're teams, I think that people really need to realize that something can actually be built on Pulse Chain that just outperforms everything, because Pulse Chain is a actual tier 1 legacy type run blockchain. We got some of the best guys that facilitate this blockchain. It's just,
B-Root said it yesterday when they looked at last bull cycle and they looked at all the other blockchains. Pulse Chain had as much gains as far as alt seasons as all these other blockchains. There was no lack of gains over here as far as alt tokens go. As far as the main blockchain, 100%. The blockchain didn't do super well, but as far as alt tokens go, we had just as many pumps as these other blockchains. Obviously less users as these other blockchains, less volume, less TVL, but that doesn't mean we had less gains. And I think that's important to pay attention to, is because there's less people here, it makes it easier to get those gains, especially if we increase the users this next time around. If we can double our holder base, triple our holder base of Pulse Chain, there is not enough supply to keep prices at these levels with tripling the holder base. There just isn't. So we're going to win if we keep on this motion, if we keep working towards these goals. It's kind of like with any sport, with any business, anything that you want to strive in, show up every day and keep working towards that goal. 2 years goes by, you look at once where you were and where you are today, and you'll be proud of it. You'll be proud of how you've grown. You don't notice it when it's day in, day out, but when you rewind, and you're like, wow, I'm really proud of where we've gotten. The pTGC, if you rewind 2 years and you look at where we are today, the distribution, the LP, the bought and burnt supply, the new features we have, we need to be proud of this. And I think we'll go 2 years in the future and we'll look back at where we are today and we're saying, wow, I'm really proud of where we are now with pTGC. That could be billions of market cap. That could be tens of millions of liquidity. That could be in the top 50 of all cryptocurrency, knocking on the doors of the biggest players in this space, players that aren't grassroots protocols. They are VC-backed protocols with hundreds of millions of dollars invested in it. And we're going to be knocking at their doors with just showing up every single day and putting in the work.
Can you guys go over the LPs, and are those LPs actually generating anything? You know, like the LPs on Pulse Chain, they have like an incentive token. Is there anything generating from those LPs, or are they just like, you know, providing assets to the protocol itself?
So as far as Pulse Chain goes in the incentive token, Richard took away a lot of the incentive. The APY that you're getting for providing liquidity, especially between both RH tokens, is, in my opinion, almost not worth it, because the impermanent loss is going to destroy your whatever little APY that you're receiving anyways. If you want to provide between like a stable or ETH, the APY is a little bit better and possibly more worth it, which I think that's what Richard wants, and that's why there's more weight over there. As far as pTGC's protocol goes, we generate revenue off of all of our liquidity pools, and that value obviously doesn't go to just rewards for holders. It also goes to the price and the liquidity of pTGC itself. What they generate, it differs every single day. It depends on kind of what Richard's tokens are doing and some of our sub tokens are doing and what Ethereum is doing now that we've focused on building that part of the liquidity web. So it really depends on like the movement. For example, 2 days ago or something like that, Hex did a nice 20% move, where I think ETH only was up like 3%. So we were generating revenue off of both those pairs for different reasons. One, because ETH stayed behind, and two, because Hex moved ahead, and that creates arbitrage, and then we generate revenue off of arbitrage. And then the next day goes by and Hex came down 10% and ETH only went down 2%, which is a new arbitrage opportunity that we generate revenue off of. Everything isn't just straight and up and to the right. There's always those inhales, exhales, and and that's why we are putting some focus on some other tokens besides Richard's tokens, because those inhales and exhales tend to come at different times more often with assets that aren't so bonded together. If Richard stops bonding his tokens together altogether, that's one of the reasons why we're saying if that happens, is that great for all of Richard's tokens? Who knows? I don't know what his plan is, but as far as our arbitrage opportunity and our value generation, I think that's massive for our own individual system. I personally hope.
Can you go into a little bit of detail about how the arbitrage works?
Yes. So let's say we just had 2 liquidity pairs instead of 20, 30, to make it a little bit like more simple. There's in a liquidity pair, there's pTGC, and then there's the other token. let's say ETH and Pulse. So we have two liquidity pairs, pTGC Pulse, pTGC ETH. Well, pTGC technically has the exact same value in each of those pairs, right? Because it's the same asset. But there's a ratio. They have the same value, but there's a ratio between the pTGC and the Pulse and a ratio between the pTGC and the ETH. If Pulse Chain gets some bids, gets some buys, it's going to move up the price of Pulse Chain. And since everything in liquidity pools are ratio based, for example purposes, let's just say it's 1-to-1. One pTGC equals one Pulse. Well, if Pulse moved up 20%, that means pTGC moved up 20% as well because the ratio moved up 20%. But if ETH didn't move up 20%, that means the pTGC in the Pulse pair is overpriced by 20% compared to its other liquidity pool. That's an arbitrage opportunity that a bot's going to take action on. And what it's going to do is it's going to buy the pTGC in the ETH pair because it's discounted, and then it's going to sell it in the more expensive pair, which is the Pulse pair. And it's going to keep that rotation going until those two tokens, or the two pTGC tokens in the different LP pools, come to a common level that opportunity no longer exists. So instead of one pool being up 20% and the other pool being up 0%, in this example, each pool would actually only be up 10% because they fixed those pools until they became equal price pTGC in both. Every single blockchain does this, even centralized exchanges this happens with, but for the most part, the only people making money on this is the arbitrage bots and the LP providers. Where we kind of flip the script is we make it to where if they want to generate revenue off of our system, they have to pay our system. So then that's where we generate the 5% from these arbitrage bots. And then we put that value into the places that matter for a token to succeed.
It's just like a DEX, right? If you want to swap something into something else because you think you're going to make money on it, they charge a fee. They put a fee in front of you using their liquidity, right? And that fee just goes to enrich basically the owners of the DEX, essentially. But this system doesn't do that. This system puts a fee in front of anybody that wants to try and earn income or make money off of tapping the liquidity of the system, and then redistributes that fee to the places that matters most in crypto, to undergirding the asset, buying up the asset and removing it from supply, adding liquidity, paying out APY to holders, giving some of it to the DAO, which can enlarge those revenue centers and buy and burn and do all the things that it does.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of like owning your own little piece of an exchange, because every transaction generates revenue and capital, and anyone who owns pTGC tokens gets a little piece of that revenue and capital that's being generated by volume and volatility through the liquidity. You got anything, Prairie?
No, I don't. There's nothing on YouTube. I'm just busy marketing over here. Enjoying the conversation. If anybody else on X wants to come up and chat, by all means, do that. And on YouTube, if you got any more questions, throw them in the chat and I'll get them into and I'll ask them or answer them.
I'll tell you what, I have noticed like over the last 6 months, people that are locking just are not unlocking. There was a time where
they're
not. You would get thousands of coins, and now it's like 100 here, 50 here. It's like nobody wants to give up on their positions.
Now, wouldn't you say that based on that comment? Wouldn't you say, and let's just be real, just you give me your answer, but wouldn't you say that is a KPI, a key performance indicator that sellers are exhausted and that we're basically at a bottom, wouldn't you say that that would be a normative, reasonable, if you were looking for indicators of a bottom, that you would no longer really see people unlocking their tokens?
Well, I agree. I just want the other people that are in the chat, to understand that the people that are in it, they're in it. I mean, yes, we do have a couple of wallets that I'm watching that continuously dump, but kind of like I'm glad that they're dumping out at such a low level, because I would much rather them dump here than when pTGC is, a penny or 5 cents or 10 cents or whatever.
And frankly, the community and the system prefers to buy your tokens off you at the lows. We have to spend way less money to get these very valuable tokens.
I've got stats on the locking rewards. So in February, there was only 600 pTGC paid to every 100 million tokens locked. That was the lowest that I have recorded since, and I've been recording.
Did you say 600?
600 tokens. Yes, 600 tokens for every 100 million locked.
Yeah, so essentially what that means to me is that nobody's unlocking.
Yeah, pretty much. So
nobody's unlocking anymore.
Yep, that was the lowest on record. The highest on record, and I've been keeping records since January of 2025. The highest on record was March 2025, 144,700 pTGC for every 100 million locked. That's what you would earn from the locking rewards in that month. 144,700 for every 100 million pTGC you have locked up. So let's get a 6-month average. So the last 6 months, so February was 600, and then we go back 6 months. The highest in the last 6 months was October, by the way, with 63,000. But the average was 16,257. And then we'll go back 6 months from there. What did I say? 16,257. The previous 6 months was 73,300, which included March of 2025, when price was March through July, and the price was, much higher than it is now. So it seems to me like, yes, our users are diamond handed, but they also tend to unlock when the price is higher, when there's more volume.
But it would have to go way up, because you're paying basically 30, what are you paying? 30, 35, you have to pay 36% just to get out. So
here's how it works. Exactly. If you can unlock, if your lock is mature, no foul, right? But if you unlock early, like you said, you're going to pay 30% of your principal. And then, everybody that unlocks is planning to do something with those tokens, right?
You're technically paying 36% to get out.
Right. So you pay 30% to unlock, early unlock, 1% to unstake, and then 5% to either transfer or sell. 36% total. That's pretty.
It's actually more than that. If you add the slippage in there.
Yeah.
So you gotta really need to get out. You have to really, for some reason, want to get out, right?
I know.
I'll tell you what, I feel the same way, like, because heck's my biggest bag, and every once in a while you get that person that just like early end stakes, and you're like happy, but there hasn't been any happiness on somebody else's misery in a long time in pTGC, which proves how strong those people are that have the coin now.
The last big month that we had, it might have been August. Zen would remember, but somebody messed up. They wrecked their bags. That was pretty sad.
Zen, I remember. Zen.
I remember that conversation in here. Somebody came in here and said that they messed up. Remember that?
Yeah, let me change the subject just real quick, because that's irrelevant. That's a personal thing. But But when people make mistakes, everybody gets paid. But Zen, I remember when you were talking about. I remember when you said something about. I don't know how I would word this, but basically we were having a personal conversation, and you said, "Dude, the system." You basically paraphrase in a paraphrase. You said the system. It's not going to care. Essentially, if I could word it very simply, it would be like, if everybody wants to miss this train, if it goes the way we think it's going to go, the system could end up at $1 billion market cap, and it really didn't add that many new users. And you're sitting here going, oh my gosh, pTGC's at a freaking $1 billion market cap. And we only had 4,000 real active users. Now there's only 5,000. And I don't think people really understand like the reality of that. It doesn't take a lot to get a product like this back to a $500 million market cap. And then that's the new level. And everyone's like, holy shit. pTGC's at a $500 million market cap, legit.
It doesn't take much at all, man. No, that's the part that I think is just so crazy. Is
it's going over everybody's head.
Yeah, it's going over everyone's head, and and I think that's the part that even confused a lot of people this last couple of weeks is how we were able to have so much growth without Pulse Chain's help, really, without Ethereum's help, really, without Bitcoin's help, really. The truth is just our community with just a little effort can push pTGC to some crazy levels with just natural onboarding and hodling. I think we have the best product to hodl. And that's why we tend to have more hodlers than most every token out there, because we're getting paid to hodl. We know it's deflationary. We know there's built-in LP ads, etc. But, I would love for Banana to kind of throw some rough numbers into the Moon Math calculator so the community can really see how easy it actually is for us to be successful without Bitcoin, without Ethereum, without Pulse Chain. Yeah, a little bit of help from these tokens goes a long way. With Pulse Chain going up back to half of sacrifice price, this is massive for our ecosystem. But it really doesn't take much. If you look at our community of 3,000, 4,000 people who own over $100, it's tiny. And if we just double that, or we just get another 2,000 people, and then you kind of say how much. Let's say we picked up 2,000 people in the next 6 months, and each person, the average amount they brought in was $5,000.
2,000 times 5,000.
I understand that some people don't have 5,000. Some people have more than 5,000. Let's say the average was $5,000.
That'd be.
We did 2,000 onboards. That's $10 million.
That is 46x pTGC, putting us to a $2 billion market cap.
And that's with Pulse Chain doing nothing.
Nothing.
That's with Pulse Chain doing zero.
So then this is the crazy part, is if Pulse Chain just went to half of sacrifice price, which is, like 6x from here, where does that put us then? That puts us at like a $12 billion market cap.
Yep.
Where does that?
And one more question: What's the least expensive way to get into pTGC? Like somebody like me, I put money in Coinbase, USD. I go to Liberty Swap. What's the best way to onboard? The least expensive way? Would it be PLS through Pulse Chain?
I don't know if that's the least expensive way, but that's how I onboard people, that exact route, since Liberty Swap has came out.
Yeah, that's the way I'm doing it.
Isn't there the way where you can just go to Coinbase, You can buy USDC on base, right from Coinbase, basically like almost feeless. And then you can use Liberty Swap because they take the base USDC straight into Pulse Chain.
Yeah. I think it's pretty affordable either if you go base or even if you just go to Ethereum, because I don't even think they charge you a fee if you get the Ethereum USDC either. And then Liberty Swap, you can hop over gasless as well, just right into Pulse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best way to do it, man. It's like just straight for your Coinbase, grab the USDC on base or ETH and just over.
Yeah, that's how I'm doing it now. It seems to be the cheapest way, but I just throwing it out there. You never know. Somebody might have a little better way. Because Pulse Chain, you can't get it at 5%. You actually have to go to 5.3.
Are you saying as far as slippage goes when you're buying pTGC or what?
Well, yeah, when you do the slippage, it adds the 5% in there to convert, but you have to actually go 5.3 to actually get it to go through.
Yeah, you have to go over 5% because 5% is the fee to pTGC, and you need to include a little bit extra for slippage. So just like when you're doing a normal swap with no fee, you can't put in 0 there, like absolute 0. You need like a 0.3 or a 0.5 there to get those transactions to go through. So you always have to have that on top of the 5% fee when doing that swap. You're 100% right. Yeah, we'll see, Lika. If ProveX comes out here soon and what that looks like for onboarding, that might create a new route for us. But I agree with you. I think right now that's the best way to go.
Man, with the ProveX, if somebody puts up like $1 million, how would they collect a fee on that if you're buying it directly?
If you're buying PLS from someone who's selling it?
No. Like if somebody, the way ProveX is supposed to be is you're allowed to put like your coins up for sale at a certain price.
Correct. Yeah.
So if somebody says, I want to sell 1 million pTGC.
Well, pTGC, you probably won't be able to put up there because it's a fee on transaction token. Maybe you are. We'd have to see that. But you would pay the fee when you put your tokens into a smart contract because the fee is on any transaction, right? So if it's transferring into a smart contract, the fee will get taken out right then. And then when the tokens came out of a smart contract, the fee would get charged again. So that's kind of why I don't think it will work through there, is because I don't think that system can calculate the loss of tokens during it, which is fine for pTGC. I never looked at ProveX as being a direct buying and selling market for pTGC. I more look at it as being an easier way to onboard people to pTGC through Pulse Chain. And then, as far as the user goes, the user isn't making a fee when they sell on ProveX because what they're making is the sale of the product. ProveX is the thing that makes that 2%.
I can't wait for this ProveX thing to come out, man. I think it's soon. I think it's going to be happening soon.
Well, they're testing it. It's live on testnet. Obviously, Richard showed some updates as far as the stats page for it. It's the tokens live on testnet. The main thing is live right now, just beta version with like no liquidity. So I tend to think it's pretty close too. Some people think it's just up and it's waiting for the market bottom, and that could be a long time away. But I think it's closer than people think. I'm with you there.
I think Richard is probably timing that much like he's timing other things potentially. That's just my opinion. pTGC Maxi asked a question. Someone from the stream yesterday with Cultivate Crypto, that panel, someone from that stream yesterday said if anything happens to the founder, that pTGC and UFO are done. How should we respond to those claims? The DAO obviously will continue on, but I'm just curious how.
Yeah, I think pTGC is set up in a way to where out of any token that exists, pTGC has the most likelihood to succeed without the founder. It was specifically designed in that way. No project should be dependent on a founder being there. I think our community is by far strong enough when you look at like the active people promoting. Do I think it could cause a temporary dent? Like 100%. If you take away someone who is a very, very active community member, onboarding and educating every day nonstop, I think that would hurt any community if it's the founder or not. You know what I mean? It's the same as if Banana woke up one day and said he didn't want to be part of this community anymore. I think that would cause a dent to pTGC, no questions asked. I'd say the same would go for me. But as far as the system as pTGC goes, a lot of people don't realize how decentralized it actually is and automated. It is not dependent on anyone to exist. The LPs, for the most part, are very largely burnt. The DAO is completely decentralized as far as anyone can interact with it as long as they own a certain amount of tokens. If one day I was just gone forever and no one noticed, everything as far as the pTGC code base could go could function just as it's been for the last 3 years. Would that suck to, I think, lose me? I think so. I think I'm a good promoter and educator on pTGC, but you could say the same about anything, right? You could say the same about pretty much any crypto project out there. So I think that's playing like the imaginary horrible situation. I don't see a reason why I would ever leave. Like, I want to help my bags just like I want to help everyone else's bags. I believe this system's better than 99.9% of products out there. This is where I'm deciding to store a large amount of my family's value. I think over long periods of time, it's going to do my family great. And I think it's going to do a lot of other families great as well. And I've made it one of my main priorities to try to educate and onboard to this product, because as we increase the community's size, we've seen how much stronger that makes the product. As we just ran through with just increasing our community by 2,000 people, we can be in billions of market caps.
Yep. Yeah, and I want to be, 2,000 people would put us very close to 20,000 total holders, which is where I want to be. I want to be at 20,000 pretty bad.
You know, and real quick, Banana, on the holder count, I think there's something to pay attention to. In the last month, we picked up like 250, 260 holders. And it's no surprise that price moved up 100% in the time period where we picked up 250 holders. By our community actively onboarding, especially at these cheap prices on the chain, this is like the big thing to me. Like, you want to do it when the blockchain is cheap, when markets are low, when we're in a bear market. It's so much better to do it here than when Ethereum's at 4,000 and when Pulse Chain's at half a stack or at stack, and when pTGC's at a 500 mil market cap. Doing it right now is the best time to do it. If everyone could pick up the phone or DCA or educate or work on those in real life onboards. In real life onboards are the best onboards. They're some of the most diamond hand holders I know. They're not hopping to a new project and a new play every single week trying to get a 2x flip, 2x flip, 2x flip. Like, these are good onboards, and it's massive for pTGC. If we are increasing our community, not only on Pulse Chain, but throughout in real life people too, and we give them an amazing experience, these people start onboarding, and then those people start onboarding. And it starts now. It starts just taking that step today and keeping those holders increasing, because as we keep increasing those holders, we will win. We know literally price appreciation is just a formula, and we know what things we had to add to this formula to create the success we're looking for. We know the solution to the problem. The code is the solution to the problem. The increase of demand is the solution to the problem, and the scarcity is the solution to the problem. All we have to do is add those pieces to the, what we're cooking up, and we will get the outcome we're looking for. We will. proven it. We've proven it. We just have to get all those ingredients in. The big one I'm seeing right now is the demand. I think we have the scarcity, we have the distribution, we have the code set. If we keep increasing our demand via efforts of this community, and obviously the referral system, I think is a huge contributor to this, we control our price. We control our financial future as a sub-community. We don't have to wait for Ethereum. We don't have to wait for Bitcoin. We don't have to wait for Richard. We don't have to wait for Pulse. We don't have to wait for anyone to decide our future for us. We can actually change our future by just the effort of this community right now. And yes, it is easier to swim to your destination when the current's pushing in your direction instead of against you, but that doesn't mean you can't get there, and that doesn't mean you can't make a ton of progress in the meantime.
Yeah, 100%. So guys, go make your referral link at goptgc.com. Connect your wallet. I'm showing it for on YouTube. Connect your wallet to the site, type in a name, and make your referral link, and then pass it around to everybody and his brother. Put your referral link on all your socials. Everybody that you want to onboard, DM it to people and invite people over to pTGC. And then there are videos on my channel. There's a 4-minute plug that's really good. You can send people my pinned post. They're 5-minute videos about pTGC just as a quick introduction to the protocol as a teaser for your potential onboards. And then follow up with them. Ask them if they have any questions. Is there anything else?
That's all I have.
I guess that's pretty much it.
I think that's it. I think, every cryptocurrency is built by a community. Everyone, if you can, try to be a contributing member of this community in any which way you can. If that's through onboarding in real life, onboarding through crypto, educating the Pulse Chain community. We were talking about that pinned tweet up above. Not saying Hex is better than pTGC. pTGC is better than Hex. I personally hope that Hex does more price appreciation than pTGC this cycle. I think that's massive for pTGC. I think that's massive for the Pulse Chain community in general. But I'm not dependent on it, right? I'm going to work and I'm going to grind and I'm going to do what I can to increase pTGC and make it the best protocol possible. I think we need to do the same as far as an entire community. And everyone has a unique skill set or anything they can do, even if they have no social media following, if they have, no X account that they can promote through, or they don't feel comfortable coming up on these spaces. You could literally go and have lunch with a buddy and say, hey, I'm very passionate about this. Let me know if you'd like to get involved. Here's some information on it. If that user gets someone in, let's say that user comes in with a couple $1,000 and we show them this amazing experience, which I believe we can in the pTGC community, and they turn that $2,000 into $4,000, $6,000. We're not only helping change people's lives, but now this person is exposed to a great experience and they could start onboarding and educating. And these are all people that aren't in cryptocurrency. These are not people in Pulse Chain. And this has to happen for not only pTGC to succeed, but for cryptocurrency to succeed, right? Like, we need to start the push again to retail, to changing people's lives. And there's always one cryptocurrency every cycle that I feel like does that, where you hear the guy on the street talking about it, where this person is just an average guy and he turned $10,000 into $100,000. He's not a crypto guy. Someone told him about this product and he took a chance on it. And that is what really sparks retail when they're talking about Shiba Inu, when they're talking about Pepe, that one community-driven grassroots project that just took over. I don't see a reason why it can't be pTGC. I just don't see a reason why. I think it deserves it. I think the community is strong. I think we have everything everyone is looking for as far as a product goes, but we have to let them know. If we don't let them know, they'll never know about it.
That pretty much sums it up, Zen. We got to let the world know about pTGC. Massive price appreciation potential along with passive APY with zero overhead.
And it doesn't need to be a crazy amount, right? Like it could literally be $100. You can get them in with $100. That's what people spend on dinner nowadays. One dinner out costs $100. $100 could turn into a lot of value in the future, especially if it's someone that can hold on more than a 2x, someone that can actually see this thing out multiple years. Even just $100 could turn into tens of thousands.
Yeah, that's what I've been promoting is that people, if their onboards are hesitant, they can throw in $100, just like you said, $100, or get a million, which is right now is about $150. Get 1 million tokens in your wallet, and then watch the system, and see how it works. And then if you like it, then you throw more at it. And also with that 1 million tokens, you can. While you're watching it grow, you can get educated and learn about it. And I'm not going to advocate anybody throw in their life savings into something that they don't understand yet,
Well, and if 1 million tokens, is $100 now, and let's say in a year it's, let's say $10,000. Let's say we're able to do 100x. Well, now they probably are going to want to learn about it a little bit more. Maybe they become more active as a community member, because now you can easily turn $10,000 into $100,000, or $100,000 into $1 million. So, let's say someone comes in and DCAs through the next couple months, and let's say they actually get a few $100 buys, and it adds up to 1,000. Next thing you know, they have $1,000, and if we 100x, they're sitting on $100,000. Like, they're probably going to become a somewhat active community member. They're going to be talking about it. They're going to be educating on it. They're going to be compassionate about it. Why will they become passionate about it? Because it was a great experience for them, and it's actually helped to change their life.
Yep.
And that just starts, I think, again, we have such a strong foundation. It's nice that when times are tough, we have these very nice features to lean on, like the buying birds, the LPS, the DAO, burnt LPs, decentralized, automated. You can get paid for onboarding. That's another big thing, is like, you could onboard someone and maybe they don't have lots of value to put in themselves, but maybe they know people that possibly would want to be exposed to this, and then they could increase their bag size by just telling them about it. Let's say someone only has $500 they could put in themselves, but they know someone that might want to expose themselves with $100,000. Well, they could make $2,000 of pTGC just by bringing that guy aboard or bringing that girl aboard. So a lot of unique ways to earn, a lot of unique ways to increase the value. We are a team. We are trying to succeed together. By bringing people into pTGC, you have to bring them into Pulse Chain first. So we're also helping the blockchain succeed. We're creating a brand new community on top of Pulse Chain with a brand new experience. I get it. A lot of people that have been on Pulse Chain for the last 5 years have not had the best experience, but that doesn't mean the people we're bringing in today or tomorrow or next month have that same experience. By them getting in at these new levels, they might have, honestly, the best investment experience of their whole entire life. It might take only a year and they could be up 50x. Obviously that would just be lucky to them, and the fact that they got onboarded at a better level. And that's just part of it. That's why I think if there is anyone that's here, I get that it's hard, but don't let these prices pass you by just because it's been a hard experience on Pulse Chain. It's possibly even worth taking advantage of these prices and maybe just getting some of the value back that you put into it at these lows when it gets back up to some of your other DCA prices. Like if you DCA'd at half a stack price thinking, oh, this has got to be the low. I'm someone that's definitely in that same boat. But right now you're looking at a 6x just back to those prices. If you DCA these prices and then it goes back to those old prices, you can get literally your whole investment back and still have like 4 times the amount of tokens. That's what's crazy about it. If you put $10,000 in at SAC price, $10,000 in at half a SAC price, $10,000 right here, and then it goes all the way back to half a SAC price or all the way back to SAC, which would normally be your break even, you could be up literally 10x. You can get your whole investment back and still have 90% of your bag or whatever still moving along with Pulse Chain. And,
Wow.
you have to have the, the will and the conviction to scoop these dips and the belief that we will come back. But I do think it's worth it. I do think it's worth onboarding. If you don't have any more capital, maybe just try to onboard to Pulse Chain. With our new reward system, you're technically DCAing the bottom by just onboarding to Pulse Chain, helping your bags, helping the community grow, helping pTGC grow, and now helping your bag grow as well as far as quantity of tokens, which is very unique.
Yep, agreed. And go vote on St. Wolf's poll on X. I dropped it in the chat. It's pinned in the Jumbotron. We're up to 31.6% of that poll, by the way, so far. So we're doing great, guys. Keep it up.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, it's not a competition of what's better and what's not. It's
sure.
We want Hex to be very, very successful. By Hex being successful, by Pulse Chain being successful, by RH winning, we reap some serious rewards.
Yeah.
So it's not always a fight. I think it's sometimes fun banter of like, oh, we're doing so good. We're so strong. Our system's so strong. Our community's strong. That's fun and all, but we do wish the success of any project on Pulse Chain. Any project bringing users to Pulse Chain is good for pTGC. It's good for UFO. It's good for Pulse Chain. Also, us being successful on Pulse Chain is good for Pulse Chain. So that's obviously our main focus. This is where our bags are held. But wish good for others as well.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down. You guys have a good Saturday. Thank you for co-hosting Banana.
Absolutely. You're welcome, Sam. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
All right, bye.
All right, see ya. That's it, everybody. Sun coming in my window there. That was good. Good spaces. I was spaced out the whole time. I'm busy marketing. Literally. Thank you, Polygon. Very educational. Love when I learn something new about the Grays. So what I do is, that's cool. What I do is I listen to this. I download it to my phone. And then when I'm working tomorrow morning, I listen to the whole thing. That's when I get caught up with the spaces. So, hey, send me any guys that, any big guys, any big guns. If you can't handle them, turn me loose on them. Okay. I'm working with 2 people right now. One is already asking questions. 78,000 followers on X, and like a Telegram channel is 7,500, and he's asking questions about pTGC. That's the kind of guys that I'm looking for, and gals. I don't care who they are. Send them to me, and I'll start working on them, or you handle them. Let's get everybody onto Pulse Chain and the pTGC, the king of cryptos on Pulse Chain. All right, guys. Hope you have a good Saturday. I'll do my stream tomorrow. For especially if you're brand new, jump into my stream. I walk through the whole ecosystem. Send your onboards to that stream, and I will walk them through the whole ecosystem. And I will not shill my referral link to your guys. It's a non-threatening place. Jump into my Telegram, my private Telegram, if you want to help with the onboardings of new people. And then if you want to shill pTGC or your referral link, jump into my other Telegram. I think there are links in the description of this video down below. Jump in. Let's crush it. This cycle, whenever that cycle happens, we're going to be ready. All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll see y'all later.